We're watching CanadianProfighter.com. We're here at MMA Connected building in Rogers with Showdown Joe, the voice of Canadian MMA. Showdown, what did you think of UFC 11? Mark Brochak, he seemed a little bit raw. I thought he had the fight locked up.
Yeah, well, generally when I watch fights, what I'll do is I've got my piece of paper and I'll draw a line down the middle, fighter A versus fighter B, and I'll write down little notes, round 1, round 2, round 3, in terms of strikes landed. I'll put a tick or, takedown landed and what happens from there. And when I scored the fight, I scored a 29-28 for Mark. Yeah, I believe he won the fight, and I understand maybe the judges that were judging at the very end, they saw Miller take Brochak's back, but that was literally in the last seconds. I think Mark did get robbed in that fight. I think he should have won, but again, it's one of those things you hear everyone say, don't let the fight go to the judges. So
yeah, that's too true. We had it carded the same, but I mean, those hometown judges aren't always on our favor.
Well, there's hometown judges. That's one conspiracy, and the other one is, are the judges that were there, were they MMA judges? Right? I didn't do the research to double check, but when you're bringing in boxing judges to do MMA, you might have a problem. Not saying that's what happened in New Jersey because they've been around for a while, but it's unfortunate because I really think Mark won.
Yeah, so we did too. How about GSP? He was criticized a fair bit. He had a little bit of problems in finishing him. It looked like he was dominant, great dominant wrestling performance, but it was a little lackluster on the ground, not enough aggression maybe.
Yeah, I think anyone that booed George St. Pierre has never trained a day of mixed martial arts in their life. I mean, what mixed martial arts is exactly what George St. Pierre does. You take a look at two fighters. If you're fighting an opponent, you've got to eliminate his skill. And Dan Hardy's skill was striking. So why would George St. Pierre sit there and stand with Dan Hardy? The point is to win the fight. So now it's Dan Hardy's job to defend the takedown. If he can't defend the takedown, George St. Pierre is going to take him down on the ground and go for the submission. It wasn't like he didn't try to end the fight. We saw the armbar in the first round. We saw the Kimura in the third round. He did everything possible to try and end that fight.
Yeah. It
went the distance. It's going to happen in MMA. And he was very critical of his performance, and I personally disagree with George. I'll tell him the next time I see him. There's no need to apologize, but he's just a humble guy.
Yeah.
He's very, very humble, and I think he did a great job trying to finish Dan Hardy, and he took the fight where it needs to go. I mean, what I get frustrated with, and there's a few guys in George St. Pierre's inner circle, I disagree with how they fight, because what they do is they forget where they came from. Let's say he's a striker.
Yeah.
They try and wrestle against a wrestler. Or let's say he's a wrestler. Well, he goes and tries to stand and strike with somebody who's a striker. No. You do what you're supposed to do to win the fight. If you're a wrestler by trade, get the fight down on the ground. If you can't get it down there, then you go to plan B, which is stand. Exactly. Right? So George St. Pierre will continue to do what he's doing, and he's going to be a dominant. They can boo all they want. When they look back, this guy's legacy is going to be golden.
Oh, for sure. What do you think about his corner maybe saying, like, I don't know if you heard it in between rounds, Greg Jackson was quoted as saying, don't pass guard this round, just stay in the guard. And then in the next round, he was giving George a little bit of hell, saying, you pass guard a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. So,
Greg Jackson, I spoke to him after the fight, and he made it pretty clear. After the first round, when he wasn't able to submit Dan Hardy, they went back to the ground and pound. Yeah. What they wanted to do was to soften up Hardy to the point where he takes enough of a beating where his mind starts going. That will to win is starting to get sucked out, right? Then you pass guard. When you pass guard, you continue it, and then you go for the submission, because they realize this kid's not going to quit.
No, he's a tough kid.
He's just not going to quit.
Yeah.
And Dan Hardy, he should be commended for that exceptional warrior spirit. He proved once again that no matter what, you're not going to knock this guy out, you're not going to submit him.
No, he's a warrior, for sure.
Lots of respect for Dan Hardy. He's a great guy. I mean, he did a great job hyping the fight.
Yeah.
Everyone can hate most people don't understand the fight game, and they boo the fighters. They hate Dan Hardy, they hate Brock Lesnar, they hate Tito Ortiz. These guys are doing their job.
Oh yeah, they're bringing in the fans, they're bringing in the money. I mean, you need a bad guy and a good guy, right?
Have to have it. I just spoke to a couple of guys beforehand. They're like, well, what do you think of Brock Lesnar? And I say it all the time, he's hit or miss.
Yeah.
You never know which Lesnar's going to show up. The bottom line is, you love him or you hate him, he sells pay-per-views.
And
that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Hate him or love him, I mean, everyone likes to watch him, so that's the important thing.
Well, you saw he got booed when he came out to the
Yeah.
arena, right? All he did was walk out.
Yeah.
He got booed nonstop. But hey, that's what the UFC wants. It's good.
I'm looking forward to that fight. That'll be a great one. I mean, Lesnar, Carwin might be the only man to give him a little bit of problem in the power stand-up. So I think it could be a quick one.
It's one of those things where people are always criticizing me when I talk about John Bones Jones and Shane Carwin and Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos. I've been blessed to be around this game for a very long time. I've seen thousands of fights in front of me. On camera, on tape, whatever. It's one of those things where I've actually learned to see something earlier in a fighter before they reach their peak. And I've been saying it for a while for Shane Carwin. He doesn't look like much. He's a big, thick dude, but his wrestling game is compact, and he hits like a truck. I've seen him hit pads. I know guys that he trains with on a personal level, and this guy hits like a truck. And when I picked Shane Carwin to be Frank Mir, who I consider both Shane and Frank friends of mine because they've always bent over backwards to help me out. And I just broke down the fight, and I said Shane Carwin is one punch away from ending this fight. That's the kind of power he has. And when he landed those 5 left uppercuts on Mir, I just said, here it comes, here's the end. And you know, people were all surprised, and I was like, well, what's there to be surprised about? This is what he does.
Yeah, you get hit by him, you go down. It's pretty much the end of the story.
And I think Brock Lesnar's in big trouble. The only problem that Shane Carwin's going to have in that fight is when Lesnar sets up, he doesn't get what he wants. He just bull rushes his way in. And the difference between Brock Lesnar and every other wrestler is you look at the size gap. Like Lesnar's coming in at you like this. Every other guy is like this. You know, hypothetically, you can't sidestep that, right? And if Shane Carwin's back is against or too close to the cage, he's got nowhere to go. If they're at the center of the ring, Carwin's got to take that center of the ring. And if Lesnar tries to run him, he could probably try and sidestep or triangle out, right? If he doesn't, it ends up on his back, you know, Lesnar can pull this off.
So you think his footwork is going to be the story for this one?
Footwork, power punching. Footwork and power punching. He's got to get past that long jab of Lesnar and the long cross. All he's really got to do is sort of take a look at what Roy Nelson did to Stephen Struve.
Yeah, that was good.
In and out, and look for the overhand right. When you're a shorter fighter, the overhand right is taught to you at a basic level when you're a boxer.
Yeah.
Overhand right against, look at Ivan Menjivar when he used to fight guys like George St. Pierre. He's a little short, stocky guy. Overhand right.
Yeah.
Overhand right. He used to always work for him because he's a short fighter. You got to reach out for him to land that punch. So
for sure.
Yeah.